Here with Jonah, Conrad of Conrad Blacksmithing. And Conrad, he forges axe heads. And how long ago did we meet? A couple months? 6 months?
Yes.
And
Actually,
Conrad was like, I want
yeah.
to start building falling axes, because he was building chopping axes. And so he talked to
When we got into firewood, yeah.
a bunch of fallers and started figuring out what everybody liked and what the good points and bad points were of different brands, and kind of
Started working
picked
with
everybody's
Garrett
brain.
Austin.
Yep.
Garrett Austin was really the main guy who I came to figure out what was good for a falling axe. Took a lot of advice from him, and you learned a lot from Anton too. He likes the long ones.
Because everybody likes something different, right? So
Yeah.
it's like everybody likes short handles or long handles. Everybody, it's just what personal preference is pretty much
Thin
what
head,
it comes
thick
down
head,
to.
yeah.
So we figured we'd make a little video of what the outcome was of your, pretty much your research of talking to everybody.
Yeah, different axes for different regions. Like here in California, where Anton's doing the redwoods, he likes the longer ones. So this is Anton's daily driver, kind of a mix of a national and a rafter, 4 3/4 pound, real thin, super long pole, not real thick pole, not super tall either, just real long. These guys are falling big trees every day, like this guy. So they like the long ones. That's Ramon's 8-pound or 8 pound. He wants an 8-pounder.
Yeah.
This is his 5-pound Raptor. As you can see, it's freaking super long.
And you built both of these?
Yeah, I built both of these, and I built Gordy's axe. This is Ramon's. He likes super long head. Really thin too out here, because these guys are chopping a lot of bark. But like Gordy's, he wanted something shorter for tree lengthening. Real stubby 4 1/4 pound national head. Super thick. This thing's more of a tank than these are. And then like these guys, they want a sharpened bit. And Gordy,
Like show it next to that 4-pound
yeah,
plum.
this is a 4
So it's a 4-pound plum. This is
Raptor.
4 1/4, right?
yeah, this is heavier but smaller. It's more compact.
So
So it's got more weight in the pole.
It has kind of like a sledgehammer feel.
Yeah, it does.
But like the plums are always awesome, but even them are a little bit heavy compared to what he built me. You can stick your finger in there. The thing is just super balanced, which makes it nice. So if you're one-handed swinging, you're not trying to keep the bit up all the time and getting your arm tired.
And it reduces the amount of roll too. Like I've been using this Stro today too, just to test it out. You can see
GBA, right?
And these are, yeah, GBA. These are all different because they were forged by hand. This one's got a pretty thin pole on it, really bit heavy, but it is tall. And this just likes to roll on you, but that also depends on the handle too. Like on Gordy's axe, I made the handle a little bit flatter on the sides so you can actually index it in your hand and figure out where the axe is pointed. So with a really round handle, sometimes they like to roll, or sometimes you just don't quite know exactly how the axe is pointed, and you might hit the edge of the pole and roll it. Just leads to less energy transferred to the wedge, along with a thinner pole. But these have a good design. Like being this tall, you have a lot of surface area to hit the wedge, so that is nice, being able to reach the wedges like that. So that's one thing I'll probably incorporate in axes in the future.
Some of the older ones, you know, like the Stros and everything, they didn't perfectly forge every one of them. So sometimes you'll get one that has a little bit bigger pole on it, to where it's a little bit more balanced on the back, and you'll get some that are really bit long. And then once you start, you know, swinging different axes, you'll be like, oh, I kind of like this one better. And you'll start out like, oh, I want this big heavy son of a gun. But when you start swinging it, you start realizing that might not be your favorite one. And then same with length of handle. Like everybody has
you might
preference.
want to go
Anton
out
likes
with
27-inch.
I like longer handles, but for me, I've always swung a 5-pound rafter, and then he built me that one that's in his hand, and it's not 5 pounds, and I actually can swing that axe a lot harder and with a lot more precision, which makes my wedges drive harder than most 5 pounds that I've ever used. So it's different heads, different weights. You got to be, you got to try them all, you know, to find one that you like. But that axe right there, I'm probably going to get buried with.
And if you're, you know, cutting all day, you get tired swinging a big, huge axe. That's a lot of drain. Plus, you got to carry it on you. So that's something to consider when you're looking for an axe head, you know, like
for sure
what fits you. And then
and it's not all about the weight of the head, right? It's actually mostly about the geometry of the pole. You can have a light head, but if it's a freaking sledgehammer, it'll transfer a lot of energy into the wedge.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of trying to say earlier. I've always, I always thought heavier meant better for me, because big, strong guys, they always want to swing a big, heavy axe. And when I got your axe, it's the first one that's been well enough balanced for me to where I was like, man, this little 4-pounder, I've like that 4-pound plum next to Gordy. I don't like that axe. I mean, I like that axe, but it's just not heavy enough for me. This 4-pounder that you have there, of course it's over 4 pounds. It's 4 1/4, but it hits like a 5-pound axe.
Personal preference. I mean, not everybody is going to be in this size of wood too,
There's that stroh. This is a 5-pound stroh next to the 4 3/4 mix, I guess. Pole is taller. There's an eye to eye comparison. I'll line up the eyes right there. That's how long the poles are. But you can also see that the pole on the stroh is like a good 1/2 inch taller. So you're gonna have to figure out what you guys like. Just test out a bunch of axes, figure out if you want more surface area to hit the wedge or if you want, more weight to the pole. Personally, I like it more weight to the pole so it doesn't roll as easy when you're hitting the wedge. And you can use a lighter axe and be more accurate, right? The more accurate you are, square you hit that wedge, the better it's gonna drive in.
I mean, 90% of the time we're using that axe to beat wedges. So a nice pole, even from a timber falling standpoint, I mean, it's nice to have a sharp axe for me because we're chopping bark, but having a good solid pole that's a little bit longer and more surface area to hit on is key for me.
And you're reaching deeper into the tree. If you're still wedging a wedge past the bark, you can still get that little extra inch that pole has past the edge of your tree. Because otherwise you're stacking before you actually get enough lift,
Or if you're banging 2 wedges side by side, you can reach over the closest wedge and hit that without hitting the shoulder of your handle.
Talk about handles, like.
Oh yeah, handles. That's a lot of personal preference right there, I guess. Personally, I like bigger palm swells. I don't want to have to try and grip the handle, especially when you're wearing gloves. That makes it more difficult. But for me, the flatter the handle, I like it. I mean, you can go too flat, right? But the better you can index it into your hand and figure out where that axe is pointed, the better. What do you like?
I mean, as far as lengths, it goes, with the head. If you're gonna do.
Yeah, handle length.
Yeah, if you're gonna beat over big timber, like longer handle is gonna be more striking power. If you're just beating over little stuff, this little axe here, pretty much do everything you need to do. But it's all personal preference, like as far as length goes, and it's pretty much just figuring out what you like after you swing a bunch, and balancing the head with the handle is very important too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just being able to get in to clean the cutout for me, especially on a stump like this one that's here. When we did kind of an old growth style undercut, I used Gordy's axe, which worked great. But the handle's short, and
before I did this snipe,
wood was
he was trying to reach way in there to get the face out, and the axe is a little short.
It's a little short, so you're gonna get your knuckles.
Compared to like Ramon's axe, he's got a little more reach. He's away from it. So,
but at the same time, you can travel with this guy.
Yeah,
fit it in a suitcase. Gordy took this from it, put it in a suitcase on a plane. So it's all up to you guys. You can have long one for home, and I'm gonna make myself a traveling axe, 24-inch handle.
Well, you can just make a really nice one and send it here, and I'll keep it here for you.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
You guys should have your own sets of gear here.
I'm just gonna send a bunch of axes down here.
And then, if you're trying to find an axe on eBay, or you have somebody that has an axe and it doesn't have a brand name on it, like the steel is a lot different from one brand to the next.
Oh yeah.
The Plum is awesome steel.
Great steel.
You're using a great steel. That Stroh was always known for hitting hard. And then you can get some no-name axes. You could have a 6-pound no-name and be pounding your guts out, and go over here with this little guy that has tool steel in it. And it's outdoing a no-name axe. So something to consider when looking for a brand name axe.
Plums have really.
I've always been a Plum fan. I think I have more Plums than any other axe. They were my favorite. And now that I'm running Conrad's axes, I think I have 8. I think I bought. They're not personally mine. I actually loved mine so much that I bought pretty much everyone that falls timber for me a Conrad axe, and pretty much that's how I got all my Plums back. They just they tried them out for a day or two, and they never came back. So
yeah, if you can't afford, like, these axes are expensive, the ones that I make, but if you can't afford something that I make, I would say look for a really good thick pole, or a long pole, however you say that. Typically plums are good. I like plums a lot. If you can find a good stroh with a good pole, like you guys said, they're all different. The Swedish steel that they were using, that was some good stuff, really good stuff.
The German steel's good too.
Yeah, German steel's good.
Yeah, the steel plays a big factor for me. Like, you can hear it in the wedge when you're beating.
Yeah.
You can hear the crack.
It's a solid crack.
Yeah.
You're, taking all that weight and that power into that wedge instead of a soft steel just absorbing the hit. So, something to consider.
Yeah, just some tips on finding a good fallen axe for you guys.
Yep. If you need any handles, I got them.
Oh yeah, West Coast
Yeah,
Saw.
West Coast Saw has great handles.
And they have the palm swell, kind of like, more like this one.
They're a real good balance between a real thick oval handle and a thinner handle. I find that they're right in the middle there, and so they're pretty comfortable for people that they like a little bit thinner of a handle, or people that like a little bit thicker of a handle. They're kind of right in the middle, so they tend to fit just about everybody. West Coast Saws has great handles.
Yeah, and they're a little shorter, so if you miss, the longer handles will break easier too. A shorter handle, you have a little more accuracy because your hands are closer to what you're trying to hit. So you get way out here long, you better be pretty good with your axe, or you're going to be hitting the back of this and busting the back.
Yeah,
of your
you're
handle.
less likely to hit the shoulder because the axe
and
is
it's
closer to you.
like I said, it's personal preference. So you guys have. A lot of people have bought my handles already, and they've been really happy with them. But I might come out and make a longer one too.
Yeah.
Over time, I didn't know where to start with, so that's what we started with. And but
It's a good length.
yeah, we might make a longer one later if people want longer ones.
One of my fallers has one of your handles in his plum, and I like it. I mean, I played with it the other day. It's nice. It's a good balance. It's something I feel comfortable enough that if I had to swing it all day, not an issue. Whereas some of the other handles that you pick up that are store-bought handles, they feel like almost a bottle in your hand, and it's just too round.
Austin did a really good job on ours, and I was really happy. I mean, every one of them's built on a lathe, so they're picture perfect, copied lathe. So all the handles are the same, and the grain orientation varies a little bit, but that's another thing. Grain orientation.
Yeah.
Everybody wants perfectly straight grain and stuff, but
Yeah, we should talk
where's
about
that other one? Here's one that Anton, you probably had this axe
Oh.
going on 3 years, right?
Yes. Yep.
It's got a knot right in the middle of it on a 5-pound stroh, and it's never broke. I mean, look at it.
Yeah.
It's
no,
ugly,
great.
right?
Yeah, but
And-
it swings good, and it's been a great handle.
And you've been whacking on this thing, and the grain orientation is good, but it has a big limb right in the middle of it. It still hasn't broke. So sometimes you get one that's like, oh, that thing's ugly or whatever. Like Garrett usually takes the ugly ones and he can't break them.
Oh yeah, it's always the ones that you're picky on. You freaking find a little pinhole in there and say, oh, that's no good.
And for somebody that wants a really perfect looking axe, it's fine to hunt one down, but sometimes the perfect ones will break the first swing. It just depends. So you can't
Wood is hit and miss, no matter.
You can't control Mother Nature. That tree grew the way it grew. So.
Yeah, but with straight handles, there's no curve in the handle to cause run out with the different grain orientation, right? So no matter which way the grain is going, you still have grain all the way up the handle. There's no run out. But on a curved handle, you do want it straight because curved will have run out if the grain's going this way. But on straights, I don't worry about it really. I'll use any grain orientation and they last.
So I hope that helps you guys. If you're looking for Conrad, you have a YouTube channel.
Yep, Conrad Blacksmithing.
Yep.
Conrad Blacksmithing is everything, really.
And that was one of the early ones, and he
yeah.
makes some sweet heads. So you
be
interested in
with this
getting
one.
a custom one, he's the guy to talk to.
Yep.
He's got her figured out.
Yeah, you can get your name put right in the back of the pole.
Oh yeah.
Like that one right there.
Yeah, you
Forgot
need
about
to do that.
Did that on Ramones.
Yeah, it's right there. I'm zooming in on it. You can barely see it, but it.
Oh, it's upside down.
Upside
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it put right in there.
All the Raptors are serial numbered. All the Nationals are serial numbered. But anything I do custom, it's not.
I just think it's cool. You took everybody's opinion and built, what you did. So thank you.
Yeah, the
Because
best
it
parts
makes it
out of
awesome
every
on
axe.
us, like
It's so
out
nice.
here in the brush, it's nice for guys that are making a living doing this for sure.
Well, what I really like is your preference might be a little bit different than mine, and so Conrad is so user friendly. I can call him up and be like, "Hey, man, I like this and I like this, but I don't like that." And I mean, he basically built the one that his arm's on there just by me and him having 2 or 3 phone conversations, it's the nicest axe in the last, I mean, I've been cutting trees now for going on 30 years, and it's the nicest axe I've ever used. So it's built specifically for me, and he's very user-friendly when it comes to that.
That's why I'm out here trying to learn what you guys like.
Yep.
Learning a lot.
We're just glad you came out here and hung out with us.
Oh, dude. It's a dream come true.
I mean, that's how you figure out what people like, right? You got to get out in the brush.
You got to use it.
You got to get out in the brush.
I'm just happy that he's been able to use his own axes to beat over some trees. You know, I mean, that's
Because now you have, you know, your opinion of what you
oh,
like.
yeah.
Because you got to try all
I can
these.
go home and really fine tune stuff now.
Yep.
Now that I've beat on them.
I think it just makes you better every time you come out and try different
sure.
things, and different regions have different things too. I mean, like all over.
Yeah, redwood bark's thicker. That's why I have a sharper axe. You know, we got to chop bark sometimes.
Yeah, and Garrett wants a tank of an axe.
Yeah, and I have
because he's chopping bars all the
I
time.
have a duller bit, you know, because I don't do a lot of chopping, so I don't want to cut myself.
Right.
So everybody likes different things.
Guys from Oregon and Washington are primarily cutting fir, and for fir, you know, a heavier little axe without such a sharp bit is probably more beneficial. Up here, you know, here the bark sometimes is thicker, so we need a little bit longer of a pole, longer axes so that we can get into the undercut in these bigger trees, and we want a sharper bit and a little bit longer of a bit because we have to chop the bark a lot of times. It's just different regions, different axes. But
that's why they made all the chopping axes so different, you know. It's like every region, hardwood.
Yeah.
You know.
Like racing axes, the grinds are so different.
Looking at that, and then looking at the old Pugets that they used to chop with, I mean, that's just gnarly.
There's a lot of science that goes into it.
There is.
Really.
When you really start looking at all these, they feel different. Every one of these pound different. They're not the same.
Every single axe.
Well, hope that helps you guys in your search for a good falling axe.